What it do? What it do? You know what to do. Like, subscribe, share, comment to my YouTube channel. Most definitely hit that bell icon. That's the notification bell that alerts you all content that I drop. You want that exclusive videos, new shorts that came out, and they be like, nah. Hey, I'm the first one. You be the first one to get in, let everybody know so they can check it out. Make sure you smash that bell icon so you won't miss no content. Also, make sure you hit the thumbs up, the AKA the like button. It's the three dot the right hand side. Hit the three dots. You'll find it. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. I need everybody to double back and spin the block and go to my second YouTube channel, S.L.R Sports News TV. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, comment over there. It help both of my channels grow, get more viewers, more subscribers, and pushes both of my channels further to the YouTube algorithm to be noticed. So yeah, I appreciate what I do. You support the channel. Make sure you smash that like button. So you like the content when I do. Make sure you hit the cap. All contributions go directly back to the channel. Shout out to my subscribers. Shout out to my future subscribers. You see the title. We in the building. We in the building. You see it. Mexican drug lord. Rest in peace, El Mencho. The leader of the CNG Mexico War on Drug Lords Part 3. Told y'all, we in Mexico. I done I done bought a hideout in Mexico, bungalow. I done bought the crew. We done packed the bags. We in Mexico. We here. We gonna be here for a minute. So, you know what I'm saying? Pray for your boy S.L.R while we go through the treacherous of Mexico. We hit all the cartel parts of Mexico. That's what we do right here. I told you, this is the channel where y'all want to come to for the exclusive drops. We're going there. We're going places where don't nobody want to go. We're giving you that content don't nobody wants to give you, but the exclusive drop. So we the all-purpose channel. We're gonna give you any and everything. We come all board, all aspect of it. And I told the crew, let's pack our bags. We're going to Mexico. So, what you going to Mexico? Listen, going to Mexico, or you going tonight? We're gonna break the news. We're gonna repackage it and ship it out accordingly. And that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get the fans. We're gonna get the subscribers what they want. Good, great content, and that's what we do. Exactly what we do. I got more information on El Mencho, the whereabouts, how it went down, the girl, the OnlyFans girl who allegedly sold him out for 15 million. All of that we're gonna get into. I told you, as more information comes out, we're gonna put it out there for y'all. That's exactly what we're gonna do here. Yo, what's good, Cologne? What's good? Smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, Cologne. Share the live. Yes, sir. We here. How you doing? I'm doing good. We here. What he say? Only girl is a sellout. Yeah, she a sellout. Definitely. She better be looking. She better be looking on both shoulders from here on out. She more for sure. There's a big bag on her motherfucking head. It's a big bag. If anything, she better be out the motherfucking United States, out of North America, period. Cause I heard it's a big bag on her. Biggie. Yes, sir. Damn, man, Joe. You was on the manhunt for 30 years. You invaded, captured for 30 years. 30 years. Some pootie tang. This chick right here, they're saying set El Mencho up, got the 15 million. This is the chick. Hold on. Sure. Yeah, there she go. It's the chick right here. Just the chick they talking about that set El Mencho up. Yes, sir. Look at she got on the Cjng. Look at her. Look at her, gang gang. Look at her. She got on the bulletproof vest. Look at El Mencho. Look at Menchie. Look at El Mencho in the club. Got him one. Got him one. And El Mencho the whole time, bro, she was setting you up. Oh my goodness. You were digging the skins out and not down and the federales was out there digging your tracks, getting closer and closer to you. Look at her. Look at El Mencho. Oh yeah, Menchie. Yeah, Mencho was in love with her. She must have been putting that thing on Mencho. Look at Mencho. It's me. Look out the Rufus Killer. Whatever you want, I got it. Give it to you. Shout out to Mencho. 30 years. And it took a woman. It took a woman to bring the most powerful drug lord down. A woman. Damn, Menchie. That's crazy. That's crazy what he said. He said just like Cassidy. Hell yeah, just like Cassidy, bro. That's you right, bro. Just like Cassidy, man. That's so crazy, bro. 30, listen, bro. Listen. If I'm fading captivity and I don't want to get caught like El Chapo, I'm a the last thing I need to be caught up is a woman. For sure. The last thing. 15 million on your head. I don't trust no woman. I don't even trust my girl. 15 million on my head. I don't even trust my own girl. She liable to get me up. But we're gonna get into. We're gonna break it down. We're gonna package it up. You know what we do? Great content. We're gonna get into it. Yeah, we in where we in Culacan, El Jalipo. Where we at? Uh, uh, uh. We in Canelo land. We in Canelo Alvarez land. We in Homer. We in Homer Canelo. Yo, Canelo, hit me up. Hit me up. If you know anything, any information on El Mencho, hit S.L.R up. Yeah, for sure. For sure, Canelo. Yeah, we know you speak good English. So I don't want to hear that. I mean, me no speak no English. Gustada cabada caseta copalan. I don't want to hear that. Speak great English, Canelo. You ain't gonna fool that shit with S.L.R. We ain't playing that. Let's get into the content. Let's break this shit down. We in Mexico. El Mencho's world. Let's go.
What happened to El Mencho's late girlfriend after she betrayed him? Amidst the chaos in Mexico, sources close to the underworld say El Mencho was betrayed from within his inner circle. His girlfriend's sudden disappearance wasn't random. It followed a secret decision that exposed hidden deals, internal fractures, and a dangerous truth the cartel wanted buried. Here's the full gist. The woman, the most wanted man in Mexico, trusted. For years, Nemesio Ruben Oseguera Cervantes sat at the top of the most dangerous criminal organization in the Western Hemisphere. Known to the world as El Mencho, he built the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, or Cjng, into one of Mexico's most powerful and violent drug trafficking organizations. His empire stretched across continents. His soldiers numbered in the thousands. His product, fentanyl, methamphetamine, cocaine, flooded American streets by the ton. And for the better part of a decade, no government on earth could put their hands on him. Not the Mexican military, not the DEA, not the CIA, nobody. El Mencho moved like a ghost through the mountains of Jalisco, switching locations constantly, trusting almost no one, and staying so far off the grid that even the most advanced surveillance tools came up empty. He had survived assassination attempts, cartel wars, military raids, and political crackdowns. He had outlasted rivals, outmaneuvered informants, and outsmarted some of the best intelligence agencies on the planet. The United States government had placed a $15 $15 million bounty on his head, one of the highest ever offered for a drug lord. And still, year after year, El Mencho remained untouchable. His capture or killing would have been the most significant blow against organized crime in Mexico since the recapture of Joaquin El Chapo Guzman back in 2016. Everybody knew it, and everybody also knew that the man seemed impossible to find. But then something changed, and it did not come from a wiretap. It did not come from a satellite. It did not come from a turned lieutenant or a rival snitch. It came from a woman, one single woman. A woman El Mencho had led into his inner circle, into his most private spaces, into the one place he believed was safe. And whether she did it on purpose or whether she never even knew what was happening around her, that is the question the entire world is still trying to answer. Because on February 22, 2026, Mexican Special Forces tracked El Mencho to a secluded cabin in the mountains of Tapalpa, Jalisco, and they did it by following her. They followed the woman he trusted. They followed the woman he loved. And by the time the dust settled, El Mencho was dead. Dozens more were dead in retaliatory violence across the country, and this woman, this mysterious figure at the center of one of the biggest cartel stories in modern history, had vanished without a trace. Her name, according to multiple reports and leaked military documents, is Guadalupe Moreno Carrillo. And before we get into what happened to her after the raid, you need to understand exactly who she was, how she got close to one of the most paranoid and well-protected men alive, and why her mere presence in his life became the single thread that unraveled everything. El Mencho was not a man who let people in easily. El Mencho's last girlfriend sends a chilling message to Americans after his death. Did they really track him through his girlfriend? When El Mencho died, his cartel unleashed hell across 20 states, dozens dead, airports shut down, tourists trapped. Then a woman connected to the kingpin allegedly sent a chilling message to Americans. What's behind that claim is far more disturbing. The ghost they couldn't catch. On February 22, 2026, Mexican Special Forces killed the most wanted man in the Western Hemisphere, Nemesio Ruben Oseguera Cervantes, known as El Mencho. The 59-year-old founder and leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel died during a raid in Tapalpa, Jalisco. He was wounded in a firefight alongside two of his bodyguards and bled out in a military helicopter while being airlifted toward Mexico City. Within hours, his cartel responded the only way it knew how. Road blockades went up in over 20 of Mexico's 32 states. Vehicles and businesses were torched, and coordinated clashes between cartel gunmen and security forces left dozens dead within the first 48 hours alone. Smoke poured over resort cities. Tourists barricaded themselves inside hotel rooms, and airports shut down across the country's Pacific coast. And then, as the fires were still burning, a story started spreading online that would eclipse even the carnage itself. A claim that El Mencho's last girlfriend, a young, attractive social media personality, had betrayed him to authorities and then sent a chilling, direct message to Americans after his death. That headline rocketed across X, TikTok, Facebook, and dozens of clickbait outlets within hours, racking up millions of views. But to understand why that claim broke the internet, what actually happened in that mountain cabin, and what the real fallout looks like for both Mexico and the United States, you first need to understand the man they just put in the ground. Because El Mencho didn't just run a cartel. He built an empire that reshaped the entire drug trade, and the story of how he went from a dirt-poor kid in rural Mexico to the most feared narco on the planet is the foundation of everything that followed.
Yeah, she set his ass up for sure. Oh yeah, she set him up, got the bag. She got the bag, bro. She got the bag, El Mencho. Oh, she set you up, B.
CJNG's new boss, extradited, joining El Chapo in Supermax prison.
There are 3 people who are going to compete to become the new leader of the cartel.
They killed the most powerful drug lord on the planet, and what happened next was worse. Within hours, Mexico was burning. Soldiers were ambushed. Airports were under siege. Tourists were trapped. And the man who was supposed to take over, he was already locked in a cell next to El Chapo. Who takes the throne? On the night of February 22, 2026, deep in the misty mountains of Jalisco, Mexico, a squad of Special Forces soldiers closed in on a rural compound in the small town of Tapalpa. Their target was the most wanted drug lord on planet Earth, a man with a $15 million bounty on his head, a man who had evaded capture for more than a decade, a man who had built what American intelligence described as one of the most powerful transnational criminal organizations on the planet. His name was Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes. The world knew him as El Mencho, and by dawn he would be dead, killed during a helicopter evacuation after a ferocious firefight that left 8 of his bodyguards lying in the dirt and rocket launchers scattered across the forest floor. His death would trigger a wave of retaliatory violence so catastrophic that it would leave dozens dead, paralyze entire cities, and strand thousands of tourists across western Mexico. But here is the detail that elevates this story from a tale of one man's violent end into something far more extraordinary. El Mencho's son, the man who was supposed to inherit the throne of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, was already locked away in the most secure prison on planet Earth. His name is Ruben Oseguera Gonzalez, known as El Menchito, and he is currently serving a sentence of life imprisonment plus 30 years inside ADX Florence, the federal Supermax facility in Colorado, the same facility where Joaquin El Chapo Guzman has been rotting since 2019. The heir to the most powerful cartel in Mexico is now El Chapo's neighbor in a concrete tomb buried under the Rocky Mountains, locked inside a soundproof cell 23 hours a day, where no prisoner has ever escaped since the facility opened in 1994. El Mencho's son-in-law, a man who faked his own death to hide in suburban California, is also behind bars. His daughter, his brother, his brother-in-law, all of them have been swept up by the American justice system. The entire dynasty has been dismantled, and that leaves a terrifying question hanging in the air. One that has enormous implications not just for Mexico, but for the United States and the entire world. Who takes over? To understand the full weight of that question, you first need to understand who Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes truly was and what he built from nothing. Born on July 17, 1966, in the impoverished town of Aguililla in the Mexican state of Michoacan, El Mencho's trajectory from grinding rural poverty to the summit of global organized crime is one of the most remarkable and most terrifying ascents in the entire history of drug trafficking. He was, in his early years, a former police officer and avocado farmer.
That's wild. That basically got his whole family locked up in the United States. That's wild. Yo, his son is locked up with El Chapo. Got life with 30. Oh my goodness. Who's gonna take over? Who's gonna take over CJNG? Who's gonna take over? We're about to find out.
The tragic fate of the CJNG members who betrayed El Mencho.
Mi nombre es Carlos Enrique Sánchez Martínez, alias El Cholo, originario de Guadalajara, Jalisco.
After betraying El Mencho, Carlos Enrique Sanchez Martinez, El Cholo was captured, tortured, forced to confess on camera, and dumped on a park bench with knives pinning a warning to his body. And when Marcos Hernandez, El Colombiano, exposed cartel theft, El Cholo had him killed, which ignited a cartel war. Here is the tragic fate of CJNG members who betrayed El Mencho. Heriberto Acevedo Cárdenas, El Gringo. In the world of the CJNG, Heriberto Acevedo Cárdenas was the kind of man who made even hardened sicarios uneasy. Known by his alias El Gringo, a nickname earned on account of his fair complexion, as well as El Güero, Acevedo did not simply enforce the cartel's will. He redefined what enforcement meant. He joined the CJNG around 2011, initially serving as a personal bodyguard for Abundio Mendoza Gaitan, one of the organization's high-ranking members, but it did not take long for him to climb the ranks, eventually becoming the Jefe de Plaza, the local boss, for the entire Región Valles area in Jalisco, overseeing territories including Zacoalco de Torres, Tlajomulco de Zúñiga, Cocula, and Tapalpa. What set Acevedo apart from the rest of the CJNG's vast army of killers was something that can only be described as a signature of pure terror. According to authorities, Acevedo pioneered the use of dynamite as an execution method, strapping live explosives to the bodies of his victims while they were still breathing, and then detonating them. Videos recovered from his cell phone and the phones of his associates after his death confirmed this horrifying practice. In one recording, an adult male, bloodied and bound with duct tape, had an explosive device strapped to his chest before it was detonated in a forested area. The perpetrators could be heard celebrating with gunfire afterward. Acevedo was linked to at least 9 homicides and orchestrated a number of high-profile attacks, including the May 2014 ambush that killed 4 Mexican army soldiers in Huachinango and the execution of 2 police investigators in Tlajomulco. He was also implicated in fuel theft, synthetic drug distribution, and enforced disappearances. His reign of terror came to an abrupt end on March 23, 2015, on the free highway near Zacoalco de Torres. Fleeing from officers of the Fuerza Única Jalisco, his vehicle overturned. Rather than surrender, Acevedo and 3 associates opened fire and even hurled a grenade at police. All 4 were killed in the ensuing gunfight. It was only after his death, when authorities sifted through the contents of his devices, that the full extent of his atrocities became known. But the story did not end there. The CJNG's retaliation for El Gringo's death was swift, devastating, and deeply calculated. Within days, on April 6, 2015, CJNG gunmen ambushed a police convoy in San Sebastián del Oeste, killing 15 officers and injuring 5. U.S. launches a huge operation to eradicate all cartels after El Mencho's death.
Following the reported death of El Mencho, the United States has launched a massive, unprecedented operation aimed at dismantling every major cartel network. Now the cartels are
Hold on, damn. Yo, the Mexican military, they made an agenda to take this guy out. But with the help of the United States, sending vital intelligence to make things happen. Donald Trump really did put the pressure on the Mexican government to get the job done. And they most definitely did. But the Mexican government can't take all the cartels out. And they know that. So it's a fine line. It's a fine line of pleasing Donald Trump, but also pleasing the cartels so there won't be no more bloodshed. Will the Mexican government align itself with Donald Trump, or will they align itself of dealing with the cartels and try to prevent them not having violence and peace? So it's a fine line between what the government want to do. And the Mexican government only serves one term. Here in America we serve 4. Mexican government, 1 term and that's it. 1 term and you out.
Cartels launch deadly attack on the U.S. Marines decimate them with extreme force.
Under the orders I signed today, we will also be designating the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations.
The United States has just declared war on the Mexican drug cartels. American warships now prowl the Caribbean, and precision airstrikes have already left dozens dead. But the cartels aren't backing down. They're arming up with drones, anti-aircraft systems, and soldiers once trained by U.S. Special Forces. And if you think that's terrifying, wait until you see what they're planning next for us Americans. The escalation. Within hours of Trump's inauguration, he issued the Executive Order 157, titled Designating Cartels and Other Organizations as Foreign Terrorist Organizations and Specially Designated Global Terrorists. This wasn't just paperwork, this was the legal foundation for everything that would follow, a framework that would transform Mexican drug cartels from prosecutable criminals into targetable enemies of the state. The order explicitly declared a national emergency under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, initiating what officials called a rapid interagency process to label transnational criminal groups as foreign terrorist organizations under the Immigration and Nationality Act. The Trump administration specifically targeted major cartels, including the Sinaloa Cartel and the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, known as Cjng, along with groups like Tren de Aragua from Venezuela and MS-13 from El Salvador and Honduras. Why this aggressive approach? The administration pointed to a staggering statistic. Fentanyl overdoses are responsible for over 100,000 American deaths annually. Trump's team framed this as nothing less than chemical warfare, an existential threat that justified treating these organizations exactly like Al-Qaeda or ISIS.
Under the orders I signed today, we will also be designating the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. I will direct our government to use the full and immense power of federal and state law enforcement to eliminate the presence of all foreign gangs and criminal networks bringing devastating crime to U.S. soil, including our cities and inner cities.
But the Foreign Terrorist Organization designation wasn't just symbolic. It unlocked an arsenal of counter-terrorism tools that had previously been reserved for groups like Al-Qaeda. Immediately, these labels imposed asset freezes, travel bans, and prohibitions on U.S. persons providing any material support, whether funds or logistics, even indirectly. By March 2025, the Treasury Department's Office of Foreign Assets Control had issued alerts targeting cartel-linked businesses, disrupting what experts estimated to be between $5 and $10 billion in annual financial flows. But money wasn't the endgame. The real shift came in the military and intelligence authorities that these designations enabled.
Money. Money, power, respect. This is what it's all about. Being a cartel leader is money, power, respect. That's what you want. And you're willing to get it by any means necessary. By any means. That's the reason why I feel a cartel leader, you should rule with an iron fist. You should rule like a politician. You should. Because at the end of the day, it's all about respect. And El Mencho was going to command respect and was going to get it by any means necessary.
El Mencho's last words just leaked, and they're shocking. For years, he moved like a ghost, untouchable, unreachable, protected by layers of loyalty and violence. Governments hunted him, rivals feared him, entire regions whispered his name, and then, in the span of a few chaotic minutes, it was over.
Cuartítala y dátelas de comer a los tigres. Vámonos, cabrones.
Those weren't the words of a man begging for mercy. They were the final recorded threats of El Mencho, a cartel boss who, even with military forces closing in on February 22, 2026, sounded more like he was preparing for battle than facing the end. No hesitation, no surrender, just defiance. These are El Mencho's last words, and they're shocking. The last words. The title of this story is about one thing, what El Mencho said before he died. So let's start there. On the night of February 22, 2026, Nemesio Ruben Oseguera Cervantes, known to the world as El Mencho, was killed during a military operation in Tapalpa, Jalisco. He was the head of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, or Cjng, one of the most powerful criminal organizations on the planet. The U.S. had a $15 million bounty on his head. Mexico had a 30 million peso reward posted for information leading to his arrest. And then, shortly after his death was confirmed, an audio clip surfaced online.
Escúchame bien, güey. Nos cayeron a la verga, nos vendió la hija de su puta madre de la...
That clip was posted on X, formerly Twitter, and attributed to El Mencho in his final moments. In it, you can hear him mid-conversation, addressing someone named Wayne.
Abuela la pinche perra, hija de puta de la María Julita. Si no te contacto, manda quebrar a la verga toda tu puta descendencia de...
He's not bargaining, he's not surrendering, he's giving orders.
Cuartítala y dátelas de comer a los tigres. Vámonos, cabrones.
Those are believed to be among the last recorded words of one of the most wanted men in the world, and they tell you everything about who El Mencho was, a man who, even when cornered, was still issuing threats, still commanding violence, still operating as though he was untouchable, but he wasn't untouchable, not anymore. To understand why this audio exists and why it matters, you have to understand how the operation that killed him came together. According to Mexican Defense Secretary Ricardo Trevilla, military intelligence had been monitoring El Mencho's network for months. The breakthrough came when they identified a trusted associate who was connected to one of El Mencho's romantic partners.
El 20 de febrero, mediante trabajos de inteligencia militar central, se ubicó un hombre de confianza de una de las parejas.
That associate escorted the woman to a secluded cabin on the outskirts of Tapalpa on February 20th. She met El Mencho there and stayed the night.
Parejas sentimentales del Mencho, que la trasladó a una instalación en el poblado de Tapalpa, Jalisco. En ese lugar se reunió con el Mencho.
The next day she left, but El Mencho stayed, and that's when the military moved in. On February 21st, the planning began. By the early hours of February 22, the operation was underway.
That's still wild. That's still crazy to know. Some buns. Some buns. This goes to all the cartels, leaders. You ain't got to be a cartel leader. Someone who got power. When I talk about power, I'm talking about power like a leader, president. Yeah, power. Stay away from the young buns. And if you're on the run, stay away from the buns, period. You can't even trust your wife. You most definitely can't even trust your girlfriend. 15 million on your head? Hell, you can't even trust your own kids. Hell, you probably can't even trust yourself. Just saying. 30 years. And it took a piece of buns to bring the most powerful man down in the world. El Mencho. Wow. But you know why? When they put this on your head, you can't escape forever. Especially when they put this on your head. When they put that on your head, when they put that bag, when they put that bag on your head, yo, ain't no sleepers. They said Mencho had kidney disease. El Mencho built his own clinic just for him to get treated. Bought and paid some of the best doctors in Mexico, around the world. Well, pretty much Mexico. And they said that the United States was tracking his medication. Wow. 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 Oh, they Rufus, if they want you, they gonna get you. Ain't no doubt about it. And once Trump labels you as a terrorist, ain't nothing you can do. Ain't nothing you can do. You are now officially looking over your shoulders every day for the rest of your life.
Army showed up at El Mencho's funeral organized by the cartel. Then this happened. They killed El Mencho, Mexico's most wanted man, dead, but his cartel had one final demand, a funeral. Armed gunmen, thousands of loyalists, all converging on one location. The army had two choices, let it happen or show up. They showed up, and what followed was hell. The body, the burial, and the cartel's goodbye. On February 22, 2026, the most wanted man in the entire Western Hemisphere was killed by the Mexican military. His name was Nemesio Ruben Oseguera Cervantes, but the world knew him as El Mencho, the founder and iron-fisted leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, or Cjng, one of the most dominant and violent criminal syndicates in Mexico, a man with a $15 million bounty on his head, a man whose empire stretched across 6 of 7 continents, and now he was dead. But here's the thing nobody was prepared for. It wasn't just the killing that shook Mexico to its very foundations. It was what happened after. It was the body, the question of what to do with it, the whispered plans for a funeral, and the terrifying, very real possibility that the most powerful drug cartel in the Western Hemisphere was going to organize a burial ceremony for their fallen leader, and that the Mexican army was going to show up at that funeral. What followed was a chain of events so chaotic, so deeply disturbing, and so consequential that by the time the dust had settled, over 73 people were dead, 250 roadblocks had turned entire highways into war zones, and a nation of over 130 million people was forced to lock its doors and pray. So let's start from the moment the bullet entered his body. Let's start from the very beginning. And let's not leave a single detail out, because this story, every single agonizing piece of it, deserves to be told in full. The small town of Tapalpa is a quiet mountainous settlement roughly 2 hours southwest of Guadalajara, nestled in the kind of rugged terrain that makes it a perfect hideout for a man who has been running from governments for years. And that is precisely why El Mencho was there. According to Mexico's Defense Secretary, General Ricardo Trevilla, the military had been tracking one of El Mencho's romantic partners for days. On February 20th, a trusted associate was monitored transporting that romantic partner to a rural property in Tapalpa. By February 21st, surveillance had confirmed not only El Mencho's presence at that location, but also the presence of a fully armed security detail surrounding the property. The net was closing, and El Mencho had no idea.
This was a very, very effective takedown of one of the biggest leaders, and it was done, based on the intelligence that they conducted primarily.
The Mexican Army, the National Guard, the Mexican Air Force, and the Attorney General's office all coordinated a joint assault that began before the sun had even thought about rising on February 22nd. Ground troops established a cordon around the property. Air support circled overhead, and when the order was given, the assault team moved in and immediately walked straight into a hailstorm of gunfire. What happened to the soldiers who killed El Mencho?
When you had the defense secretary talk about the death of the soldiers, and 25 soldiers killed is an enormous loss for the Mexican military. Imagine that on a single day.
El Mencho was finally killed in a high-risk military operation that was meant to end years of cartel violence. But instead of closure, it reportedly triggered brutal retaliation. With reports of dozens of soldiers killed, the aftermath is raising serious concerns about the price paid by the soldiers who took him down. The retaliation, when Cjng set Mexico on fire. Within hours of news spreading that El Mencho was dead, the Jalisco New Generation Cartel activated every cell it had, not just in Jalisco, but across at least 20 Mexican states simultaneously. What unfolded over the next 48 hours was described by experts as the most widespread and coordinated retaliatory campaign in modern Mexican cartel history. Not spontaneous, organized, strategic, but to understand why the cartel responded the way it did, with that kind of speed, that kind of coordination, that kind of fury, you first need to understand who they just lost. We'll get there. But right now, let's start with what the world saw first. The first tactic was the narco blockade, a method Cjng had been refining for years, but which it now deployed on a scale the country had never seen. Over 252 separate incidents were reported in the initial hours and days. Vehicles commandeered, set on fire, and used to block major highways, urban arteries, and access roads to airports and cities across 20-plus states. Spikes and nails were thrown across roads. Buses were hijacked and turned into burning barricades.
I mean, this tactic, which has a term for it called the narco blockade. And we first started hearing this term About 20 years ago in the 2000s, they...
And this time, it was on a scale never seen before. Not in 2019 Culiacan, not anywhere.
And it got bigger and bigger till you saw in 2019 shutting down a whole city in Culiacan, Sinaloa. And then we've seen this on a new scale.
252 different incidents, schools shut, the whole country in shock, and simultaneously cartel members fanned out to torch civilian infrastructure. Supermarkets, banks, restaurants, convenience stores, including OXXO locations and even a Costco in Puerto Vallarta, were set on fire. Gas stations were targeted, public buses were lit up. In Puerto Vallarta, a Pacific Coast tourist hub, El Mencho's own home turf, streets filled with smoke and flame. This wasn't random rage. It was coordinated theater, a demonstration, as one academic put it, of violent lobbying, the use of extreme visible force to send the government a message, back off.
And one academic called Ben Lessing has a term, he calls it violent lobbying. You use violence to try and get the government, to lobby the government to back off.
But the cartel wasn't just sending a message to civilians and politicians. They were going after the people who pulled the trigger, the soldiers, the National Guard, in at least 6 separate ambushes and attacks, primarily in Jalisco. What happened to the soldiers who killed El Mencho?
When you had the defense secretary talk about the death of the soldiers and 25 soldiers killed is an enormous loss for the Mexican military. Imagine
the trillionaire life of El Mencho before his death.
His name is Nemesio Cervantes, but he is the head of the Cjng cartel, otherwise known as the Jalisco cartel.
He was a 5th grade dropout who picked avocados barefoot in the dirt and built a $1 trillion criminal empire spanning 40 countries, with sushi restaurants, Bengal tigers, tequila brands, and enough fentanyl to kill millions. And the one weakness that brought it all crashing down, no one saw it coming. Let's get into it. From avocado fields to federal prison. Nemesio Rubeno Ceguera Cervantes was born on July 17, 1966, in a village called Naranjo de Chila in the municipality of Aguililla, Michoacán. His family farmed avocados. They were poor. He was one of 6 brothers: Juan, Miguel, Antonio, Marin, and Abraham. At least 2 of those brothers, Antonio and Abraham, would later end up deep in his criminal operations. He dropped out of school around age 10 or 11 to work in the fields. By 14, he had moved on from avocados. He was guarding marijuana plantations for local groups tied to emerging cartels. This was common in Michoacán's Tierra Caliente region, a harsh, dry stretch of land where poverty and limited job prospects pushed young men toward the drug trade as a matter of routine. In the mid-1980s, still a teenager or barely into his 20s, he crossed the border illegally into the United States. He settled in California's San Francisco Bay Area, bouncing between San Francisco, Redwood City, and Sacramento. He used aliases: Ruben Avila, Jose Lopez Prieto, Miguel Valadez, Carlos Hernandez Mendoza, Roberto Salgado, to stay under the radar. He didn't stay under it for long. His first arrest came in 1986. The San Francisco Police Department picked him up for stolen property and carrying a loaded firearm. He was 19 or 20 years old. There's a mugshot from that arrest, a young man in a blue hoodie. It would become one of only a handful of public photos of him that would ever exist. In 1989, he was arrested again in San Francisco, this time for selling narcotics. He was deported to Mexico. He came back. The arrest that changed everything happened in September 1992 in Sacramento. He and his brother Abraham were caught up in a federal heroin case. Abraham sold 5 ounces of heroin to undercover officers at a bar called the Imperial for $9,500. El Mencho was the lookout. Wiretap recordings caught him warning Abraham that the buyers looked suspicious, but they went through with it anyway. Facing a jury trial he was unlikely to win, he pleaded guilty to conspiracy to distribute heroin in 1994 in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California.
Well, Mencho was in everything, wasn't he? He was starting early. But see, that's smart, though. Start early. Get yourself used to it. Learn the trade. Build that exterior of where you know you may have to do things that you're going to have to be strong-minded and strong-willed enough, but you must have to execute. To rule with an iron fist. Just saying. But still, though, at the end of the day, you still got taken down by a piece of buns. Some young buns. Oh, yeah. You got taken down by some young buns. Damn, Menchie.
U.S. launches a huge operation to eradicate all cartels after El Mencho's death.
Following the reported death of El Mencho, the United States has launched a massive, unprecedented operation aimed at dismantling every major cartel network. Now the cartels are retaliating in the worst possible way, and it's more deadly than anyone thought. Here's the full gist. The fall of El Mencho. On the morning of February 22nd, 2026, while most of Mexico was still asleep, a convoy of Mexican special forces was already moving through the rugged, mountainous terrain of Tapalpa, Jalisco, closing in on the most wanted drug lord on the planet. Nemesio Ruben Oseguera Cervantes, the man the world knew as El Mencho, the founder and supreme leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, had a $15 million U.S. bounty on his head and had evaded capture for over a decade. But on this particular Sunday morning, his luck was about to run out in the most violent and dramatic fashion imaginable. The operation had been weeks, possibly months in the making. Intelligence gathered by Mexican authorities, bolstered by data from the newly formed U.S. Joint Interagency Task Force Counter Cartel, a military-led unit launched just 1 month earlier specifically to map cartel networks along the U.S.-Mexico border, had finally pinpointed El Mencho's location. He was hiding in a remote compound in the southern mountains of Jalisco, an area area that had long served as a Cjng stronghold, protected by armed guards carrying the kind of firepower you'd expect to see on an actual battlefield. Security Secretary Omar Garcia Harfuch oversaw the coordination of the entire mission, and the plan was clear: capture El Mencho alive. That plan went sideways almost immediately. Sometime around dawn, approximately 5 to 6 a.m. local time, Mexican Special Forces, supported by the Mexican Air Force and National Guard, launched the raid. The troops approached the compound expecting resistance, but what they encountered was something else entirely. El Mencho's guards opened fire with everything they had. We're talking rocket launchers, armored vehicles, military-grade weapons, the full arsenal of a paramilitary organization that had spent years preparing for exactly this kind of confrontation. The firefight that erupted was intense, chaotic, and absolutely deadly. Within the first 2 hours of the shootout, 4 Cjng gunmen were killed on the spot. 3 others, including El Mencho himself, sustained severe gunshot wounds, described as multiple rounds to vital areas. 3 Mexican soldiers were also injured in the exchange, though all 3 survived. 2 additional cartel operatives were arrested, and when the dust settled, forces seized armored vehicles, rocket launchers, and a stockpile of weapons that confirmed just how heavily fortified El Mencho's hideout truly was. Now here's the part that changed everything. After the shooting stopped, the wounded were stabilized on site and airlifted via military aircraft toward Mexico City for emergency medical treatment, which was standard protocol for high-value targets. El Mencho was alive when they put him on that aircraft. He was bleeding heavily, his body riddled with gunshot wounds, but he was breathing. The plan was still to get him to a hospital, to interrogate him, to put him on trial, to make an example out of the man who had built a criminal empire that stretched across 6 continents. But El Mencho never made it to Mexico City.
Yeah. Oh shit.
Delta 1.
Hey, ¿quién habla?
Mira bien, hijo de tu puta madre. Soy Mencho, güey. Relaja tu puta gente a la verga. Soy Mencho, güey. Relaja tus putas partidas, si no te voy a partir tu madre tía toda tu bola de perros. Te tengo identificado 30 güeyes. Hasta tus putos perros te voy a matar si no te relajas, güey. ¿Cómo ves?
Ya está, señor, ahorita los bajo.
Oh, no cuelgues, hijo de la verga. Te tengo ubicado en Chacala, güey.
No le estoy colgando, le estoy diciendo, ahorita los bajo.
Póngase bien las pilas, güey. ¿Qué se le cuesta ser amigo, cabrón? ¿Uno no se mete con ustedes para que se pasen de verga?
No, señor, ahorita yo se las bajo.
Pongan, mire, revíremeles a todos los hijos de su puta madre, porque todos agarran dinero y son buenos de puercos.
Sí, es lo que me están
¿Se
diciendo.
me ponen al tiro o tú eres el primero que vas a marchar por ellos, León?
No, señor.
¿Vale?
No, señor, no se trata de eso.
Váyase a la verga, porque aquí los vergazos están al 220, ya se la sabe. Y miedo no hay.
No, señor, no se trata de eso. Ahorita yo lo sé.
Entonces, si quiere amistad, aquí va a tener un amigazo, cabrón. Si no, a chingar a su madre a la verga.
No, yo sé, señor.
Ya estoy hasta la verga de que no entiendan, loco.
Señor, usted me conoce, usted sabe que yo soy amistad.
Pues por eso me extraña, cabrón. Yo te entiendo, güey, pero pues no mames, yo sé que tienes gente y la familia de chingada. Verga, póngase las putas pilas.
Yo lo sé, señor.
No quiero que me apagues este puto teléfono. Después te voy a marcar, güey. A ver si no se relajaron a la verga, ¿eh?
No, ahorita le voy a marcar.
A todos en general, güey. Relájenmelos a la verga, por favor.
Ahorita le voy a marcar de otro número, a este número que me está marcando.
No, este ya no le vuelvas a marcar. Yo le marco cuando yo pueda.
Ándale, pues.
Pero no me lo apague porque lo voy a entender como negatividad.
No, señor, ahorita le mando un mensaje de otro número para que no marque el otro.
Órale, pues, Melón, ahí les quiero eso, que se relajen a la verga.
Sí, señor, usted me conoce, usted sabe que hay respeto y hay amistad. Nada más
ya
aquí.
Está, igualmente, de aquí para allá también. Ahí disculpen por las malas palabras.
Aquí los muchachos son los que están allá y ahorita yo se los agrupo.
Ahora pues, ahí le encargo.
Ándale, señor.
Ahí relájenmelos a todos, dígale que va de parte mía.
Claro que sí, señor.
Ya está.
Ándale.
Like, subscribe, share, comment. Most definitely hit that bell icon so you can be alert all content that I drop that will hit your devices. And you heard it. Part 4 will be coming. The aftermath of El Mencho and who will seize the power of being the leader of Cjng. Like, subscribe, share, comment to my YouTube channel. You know what to do. Hit the subscribe button. I'm out. Peace.